There's an NFL team that has driven me crazy for about 5 years, the Pittsburgh Steelers. And breaking news this morning, J-Mac, they did it again this morning. So the Steelers can't stop spending money on defense. So this morning, what do you know? Bounce around the league guy, Jalen Ramsey, $26.5 million. The Steelers went and got him. Now, they did move off of Minkah Fitzpatrick, but Minkah is low maintenance, $7 million a year cheaper, a leader in the room, not a bounce around the league guy, so the Steelers can't help themselves. Now they're spending $7.5 million more than they were yesterday in the secondary. And for the record, Pittsburgh has led the NFL in defensive spending 3 years in a row. This will guarantee it's 4. The New York Giants and the Steelers spend all their money on defense. You know who spends it on offense? The Rams and the Eagles have the 2 cheapest defenses today, and the Chiefs spent the most money in the league on offense. Chiefs, Steelers, Rams, what do they have in common? Momentum, winning, perpetually interesting. In the NFL, everybody's got a budget. It's called the cap. Where do you spend their money? I've told my kids my entire life, the 2 E's, education and experiences. That's where I'm going to spend my money. On great, memorable things when dad is gone, great memories, and to educate. All right? If you're spending on cars, a third. If you're spending it on clothes, I'm going to be able to tell over time. You didn't spend it wisely. Stop spending money on defense. I thought, they're moving off Minkah Fitzpatrick, who didn't have a great year. I mean, he was like 52nd ranked safety, a good player, but a team leader. And by the way, they're number 1 in defensive spending, and they don't have the TJ Watt contract finalized. That's going to be $45 million annually. So you have that TJ Watt issue to deal with, and he's your best defensive player. And Jalen Ramsey, 2 things. He's a very, very loose player. That's why the Rams moved off him. They wouldn't badmouth him publicly, but he's kind of an independent guy doing his own thing. He's an independent contractor. He's going to do what he wants on his terms. And the Rams, after he got burned 2 or 3 times in that playoff Super Bowl run, they got tired of it. So he's also a player. He's very dependent on his environment. And so when he was with the loose Dolphins and the loose Jacksonville Jaguar organizations, he wasn't as good. He was loose. He made mistakes. When the Rams got him, I thought he was probably the best Jalen Ramsey. I've said this before about Randy Moss. When Randy had the Patriots, he broke NFL records. When he was with the stable Vikings, Randy Moss was great. Put him on the Raiders, So there's just a lot of people in life and a lot of professional athletes in life. They're very much a reflection of the environment they're in. And so Minkah Fitzpatrick, he's going to be good anywhere. It didn't matter if the Steelers are loose. Minkah Fitzpatrick is a pro, a leader, dependable. Jalen Ramsey, much more a reflection of the environment. So he goes to an organization that, remember James Harrison last week saying the best part about Mike Tomlin, he's a player's coach. The worst part about Mike Tomlin, he's really a player's coach. And some players are not great with players' coaches. Now, James Harrison was undrafted, totally driven, a complete grinder, absolutely laser-focused, but not every Steeler, as we found out, is James Harrison. So this is a great example of how do you spend your money. Chiefs, Rams, Eagles, they spend it on offense. They win every year. The Steelers and the Giants keep doubling down on defense. It's weird. It's almost as if the Steelers, trying to solve their offensive issues, looked at last year's Jets and said, let's do what they're doing. Remember what the Jets did? They added Hassan Reddick, didn't really need him, and then signed Aaron Rodgers. The Steelers went, give us some of that. Let's sign a guy that really isn't as productive as he used to be on defense and is not inexpensive and a 40-year-old quarterback. I'm just going to say this. Probably don't want to watch the New York Jets ever and say, I'll take 2 heaping tablespoons of what the New York Jets are doing. And that's what the Steelers did this morning. I could have been okay getting and moving off Minkah Fitzpatrick, though I liked him, but then adding a guy that's looser is a bounce around the league guy now, and there's $7.5 million more you're guaranteed to pay. Pre-TJ Watt contract. Not good. So I saw this story. Listen, here's what we do for a living. There's football season and waiting for football season. So I would be the first to admit that when I see one of these tantalizing NFL topics, I can't get my teeth off it. So Saquon Barkley had said this, who right now, when McCaffrey's healthy, I think he's the best running back in the league, but I think Saquon has been healthy more often, so he's probably viewed as the best running back in the league. He said, yeah, I never heard a word from the Commanders or the Dallas Cowboys when I was available. So I'll give the Commanders a little bit of a pass, new ownership, a lot of moving parts. I'll give them a little pass. But the Cowboys had the worst running back room in the league, and they didn't make a phone call on Derrick Henry or Saquon Barkley. And we were talking about this morning. I've never owned a Maserati, but the Cowboys and Maseratis are that luxury brand that feel like they spend way too much time in the shop. And right now, I think it's hard for people to wrap their brains around. I think Dallas is a bottom quarter, bottom fifth NFL franchise, but because they've been such a luxury brand, it's hard to wrap your brain around that. Like, you think the Cowboys and you think winning. But right now, I would argue weakest head coach in the sport and not a very good overall staff, because the weaker the coach, the weaker the staff he can assemble. They have not had back-to-back hits in a draft for 5 years. And that was the CeeDee Lamb first round, Trayvon Diggs second round. Those were great. Those were good hits. That's the last time they did that. So in terms of drafting and development and execution, strategic execution in the front office and coaching staff, this has been my 3-year narrative. They're not well run. And they were not in the Derrick Henry market. And remember, I wasn't gravy training on this. I said the Derrick Henry move 6 months before it happened. I said, they need Derrick Henry to help Dak. Henry goes to Baltimore, crushes, and now we've since learned they couldn't afford him, right? Well, now, with this Micah Parsons thing coming, this huge contract, I just think their strategy and execution is really poor. And this is what I was on with the Lakers for 7 or 8 years, is that it was mom and pop. There were too many friends of the Buss family in the building. You need outside eyes. When the Lions lose both their coordinators, Aaron Glenn goes to the Jets, and then Ben Johnson Bears, my take was you can't hire from within the building. These were arguably the two best coordinators in the league. The answer can't be in the building. At least one of those moves, one of those coordinators, got to go outside the building. The Cowboys and the Lakers never go outside the building. It's always friends of. Jason Garrett, Brian Schottenheimer. It's always friends of. So for years, Dan Snyder was such an awful owner in division that it kind of didn't matter if Dallas made a mistake, because everybody sort of acknowledged he's not Dan Snyder. Dan's now been dismissed, basically forced out, rightfully so, by the NFL. And now you're seeing, now it's a different kind of dysfunction, but since 2000, not that long ago, teams that have more postseason wins than the Cowboys, when you think I'm hyperbolic here, since 2000, the Jets, Bengals, Titans, Cardinals, Panthers have more playoff wins. I'm not just saying it to say it. Like Saquon Barkley's like, yeah, I didn't hear from him. Wouldn't you just call him to keep him away from Philadelphia or drive the price up or something? I mean, wouldn't you just, sometimes I've seen this in network television. You may not want a sporting event. I can remember when I was at the other place. The other place didn't really want the Olympics, but they wanted to drive the price up so NBC would pay more for the Olympics. I can remember that very well. Sometimes you get involved in negotiations just to be annoying to your rivals, just to make them do extra paperwork. I've heard coaches say this before. They'll run a trick play in a blowout win, like if they feel comfortable and lead, just to put it on film so the other team has to worry about it and practice against it. They're going to waste practice time on that. I think you get into the Saquon Barkley market just to make it difficult in case Philadelphia would want to sign him, which they did.